Welcome to the Craft to Career podcast with Elizabeth Chappell, where every week we dive into how you can turn your craft into a successful career. Get ready to have the career you've always dreamed of.
Hello, welcome to episode 12 of the Craft to Career podcast. I am super excited to have you here this week. Our guest this week is Mr. Domestic, and he is definitely someone who is crushing it with his business. In this episode, he shares what he did to help his business grow. And one of the things actually he thought was going to hurt his business. So be sure to listen to the things that have helped his business grow. I think it's going to help everyone out there who's trying to start and grow a creative business get some ideas of how to help your business grow and succeed. Mr. Domestic is super energetic and a personality that if you have not met him, you are just going to love this episode. Before we jump in, I want to read a review. This comes from Erin of Love So Modern, and her review says, "The advice I didn't know I needed. Each Friday, I look forward to listening to Elizabeth's podcast, From Craft to Career. She delivers on the content I knew I wanted to hear about a creative business, but also the content I didn't know I needed to hear. This podcast is my weekly dose of motivation and encouragement to keep working on and creating my business. The content has been so helpful so far. I can't wait to see and listen to what Elizabeth delivers next. Thank you, Elizabeth." Well, thank you, Erin. I absolutely appreciate this review, and I'm so glad that this is something that's helpful for you as a creative. I really want to be intentional about sharing things that can help creatives with their business. Not just the fluff, but I really want to get down and dirty. So thank you. I really appreciate that, Erin. And without further ado, let's jump in and let me introduce you to Matthew Boudreau of Mr. Domestic. So, Matthew of Mr. Domestic, thank you for being on the Craft to Career podcast. You're like kind of a big deal. I know you probably know it and you don't want to say it, but I'm really flattered you're here. And I know that our guests are going to be excited to hear from you. So thank you so much.
I'm not a big deal. I'm just a goober. I'm a goober dad that likes to make cool stuff and like doesn't know how to be quiet when something's wrong. But I support you. Like I supported you. We've been together from the beginning. Like
yes,
I'm ride or die you. So yeah.
Well, I still remember when you very first reached out to me on Instagram. You sent me a DM and I was like, oh, no way. This guy is so cool. Like I was so flattered that you reached out to me. So, and here we are years later.
Yay. So excited.
So, okay. I'm excited to chat like business aspect of Mr. Domestic. So going back to the beginning, am I right in thinking that you were a crocheter first and then a quilter, or like, how did you get started?
Crochet just started like 2 years ago. I used to sew. I started sewing clothes. Like my thing was like connecting with my daughter. I wanted to make her clothes. I made her like clothes the first 2 or 3 years. That's all I did. And then I started putting my stuff on the internet, and that's when quilting took over. Like I was always so shocked that quilting claimed me because one, it's like I don't fit in, but then two, it's like I do so many other things that of all things that I make, quilting is probably the least thing that I make. But yeah, that's just where most of the attention came. So crochet came and it like got hardcore as a result of, I don't know, I'm still processing disappointment in the industry at large.
So crocheting or quilting?
No, with quilting, just because I was like, it was big in quilting when everything happened last year, like with the murder of George Floyd, et cetera, and just seeing like the quilting community at large not step up and like the gross, heinous comments that I were getting just for speaking out on something I thought was important, it turned me off. So I just like, I'm staying in crochet for a bit until I process it.
So this is interesting to me because I'm only in the quilting community. Is it not the same in the crocheting community?
That's what I don't know. Of course not. Like people are saying no, it's just where I was at the point was like in the center of quilting. So it's like that was what I even considered myself more of because that's the community that like accepted me and lifted me up first. So that's just, I was in the thick of quilting and those were the relationships that I had to try and like impact positively. So that's where my focus was on that.
Okay. So had you been in the crochet community, it might be the same.
And I would probably be quilting up a storm right now. Yeah.
Okay. But you know what though? Feelings matter. Like it makes a difference. So, okay. So going back to the beginning, well, and how did you start with, like, you were in theater? Is that where the whole sewing thing started?
No, I wanted to, like, I grew up in Texas. Like, I'm from Houston, conservative family. Always wanted to craft and make things, but like it just wasn't encouraged. Like, I'd be sitting on my mom's floor as she made stuff, epic craft room, wanting to learn, and she would like actively talk about how she wished that one of my sisters would learn it and be interested. So I didn't get to then. So I did performance. That's where I found myself in high school, like theater and speech and debate, and then my undergrad's in that. And then I started doing professional theater. And then from that, I did commercial work, and I wanted to move out to LA. And it was the same time I quit drinking, so I was super fit. I started modeling then. And then from there, I realized I didn't like it really that much. It was kind of boring because it's like I'm very like, now I'm like a full on peacock. Like, that's how I portray myself. But I was just like standing, wearing these boring clothes, saying that it just was so vapid. And it was
Okay.
the same time that my sister passed away, the one that was really close to me. And that just made me reevaluate everything and like who I saw myself as at that moment. I was like, this isn't who I want to be. So it kind of like recalibrated me to wanting to be known more for like my intellect or my talent. And so after that, I got tired of modeling, decided to become a photographer, did professional photography for a while. And then when my daughter was born, since I was working mainly with fashion models, etc., like heavy Photoshop, I was like, I don't want those images anywhere around my house. Like, I just like, that's gross. Like, I don't want her to have that be the ideal. Then I realized that I liked making the outfits I made for the models more than the photography. So started making clothes. My spouse bought me a couple sewing classes for apparel, did that for a while. And then once I put stuff on the internet, then it just like this explosion of awesomeness that has ensued the past 4 years. It's been super, super encouraging and inspiring. And it's been a journey.
Yeah. Well, it
Yeah.
is. It's inspiring. I know I love what you do and others do. Well, and there's like a ton to unpack with what you just said. I feel like I can't even dive into all of it. We need like a week long podcast. But I mean, and I feel like you've lived 10 lives, you've done so many things that if one person did just one of them, people would be like, I feel pretty accomplished,
Oh, yeah.
but you've done a lot. So, okay. So at what point, I guess, maybe tell me if this is accurate, but you started posting things on Instagram.
Yeah.
Is that when you realized, like, hang on here, this thing that I love that's a craft and a hobby could actually be a source of income? Like, when did that become an idea?
Well, it was kind of like before I decided to get on Instagram. Like, everything was on Facebook. Mr. Domestic wasn't even a thing. I thought that I was going to like make clothes and have like a boutique shop or something somewhere, and then like I would just make stuff per order on Etsy. And that's what I thought would happen once I started posting on the internet. People would want that. Then I realized I didn't really like doing that because customers of handmade goods, they're just a little extra if they're not like 100% appreciative of what they are. Love you, mean it, everyone, if you're listening, but for real, don't be extra. Don't be extra. And then I started just through various collaborations because my friend Tara, who invented the wefty needle, she's the one that told me that you can get stuff for free from places. So that's what started it. I was like, oh my gosh, I can get my hobby paid for. Right on. And then that's when I reached out to Art Gallery and I became their ambassador shortly after. I was just focused on getting free stuff. So I was like, wow, let me do it. I know how to take photos. But then it just kept growing. And I learned about all of these other different revenue streams within crafting that have nothing to do with me selling something handmade. And so I just tried them all and figured out the ones that like really vibed with me. And I had just finished my MBA when Mr. Domestic started. So I was like, I have all this information in my head. Let's see if like it works and if I can do it. And ta-da, like I'm blown away by like what it's become. It's pretty rad.
So yeah, I mean, you started off just thinking, okay, I can get this paid for. And then you realized, hold on, there's actually like, there's different ways to earn money. What are some of the different ways and what's the most lucrative way for you,
Yeah. So all of my revenue streams I have, well, I'm a fabric designer. So that's income that I have. I get income passively from my YouTube channel. That is pretty consistent with what I make there. Now I have my online school where that's a revenue stream. I do have some patterns. I'm going to ramp that up as revenue stream. I do so many collaborations with brands. I've kind of narrowed it down, but that's probably my most lucrative is
Okay.
there just because of and we can get into that more if you were curious, because
Mm-hmm.
of the engagement that I have on my social media platforms. It's not about the numbers, it's the engagement. It's worth some value there. And then
Mm-hmm.
I teach and present, and I still do that online, like because I can do live streams and stuff. So that's been nice. I used to travel a lot, and that was my like number one
Mm-hmm.
revenue stream. And I would say it probably still is between me doing like presentations, motivational speeches, and teaching one of the classes I teach live. Those are pretty nice because then with those I can sell kits and stuff.
Yep.
So
Okay.
that's been so successful that I've decided instead of me waiting for special events to teach a course, I'm going to start doing it monthly and just offer a course. And I don't know, maybe I'll cap it off at like 50
Mm-hmm.
and then just do it. Cause then it's like I could have the prices be lower
Yep.
and then I would get all the money. So it's like, if I'm using my Zoom information and my connections, why am I not just doing it on my own? So
Yep.
I'm excited about that. That's going to be neat to just be in control.
So that is separate from so you.
Yeah,
That
that's
is
different.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
this
that's
is new to
online.
me.
Yeah, online live stream classes. They do like it's like a regular class, but it's online, and it works really well in a virtual environment because they're able to see stuff a lot closer.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a party whether virtual or in person, so you're getting a party no matter what. But it's like I can see their stuff and like help them. So there's generally maybe one or two that doesn't like vibe off the virtual environment, but for the most part, it's really been better. So we're even if things ever do get back to a semblance of what it was prior to COVID, I'll
Mm-hmm.
probably still do most of my stuff virtual because my kids
Same.
really enjoy me being home.
Yeah. And I remember when I met you at Quilt Market, we both left and we were like, I feel like I'm going to die a little bit. Like I need to
Yeah,
climb in a hole and
yeah,
just recoup. And so there's something really liberating about being able to stay in the comfort of your home, not have to travel, and be able to still reach people, you
yeah.
know?
And I'm not exhausted because I'm full on an introvert. I'm outgoing AF, but like I need to recoup after I'm around a lot of people, which is what by definition an introvert is. So yeah, those things like those events, it's so hard to self-regulate and like make sure you drink water, make sure you take break, like all of that, because it's like this big maelstrom of awesome that
Yeah.
yeah, at the end you need a month off.
I know. You really do. You really do. So, okay, I'm going to leave a link in the show notes to your YouTube video where you talk about your YouTube channel getting hacked. So we don't have to recap that here. But I know there was a big pivot in your career when that happened.
Yes.
Can you tell us about So You, what it's all about, why you decided, without rehashing the YouTube hack
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah. Well, just long story short of it, because there's lots of information to learn if you wanted to learn how I even got my channel back. But yeah, I was hacked and stolen for 2 months, and it was used for political disinformation that was anti everything I stood for. And the customer service wasn't the best. And that's what bothered me more than losing my content was that I'm more so even now, I'm very passionate about making sure that Mr. Domestic is a truly inclusive community and that it's like-minded values. Like we just love all people. Unless you're a racist or a homophobe, then there are other communities for you. That's just how it is. So the fact that it was used for like stuff that's like anti everything I stand for broke my heart because I felt like I let my community down and
Mm-hmm.
I had done them a disservice and I wasn't able to protect them. Then just during that time, I realized that the only way I can do it is if I am the one in control of everything. And if there's a problem, I can get someone to help me right away. And like all of that, it seemed like the right move. But due to pandemic and overcommitting, it took me a while to to launch it. So it took over a year from that to launch it. And the reason I did was my assistant. Thank you, Brittany. She's amazing. I love her. Like, she's like family to me, but she has been very focused on me getting it out and me launching it. And she, every week she's like, did you record anything? Have you filmed anything? What's going on? So she's been integral to keeping me focused. But yeah, it's so awesome because like I control it, what's in there. And like the requests on YouTube got so much that I was like, I can't honor all that because like one, that's free for y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And then two, it's like Mr. Domestic's become a size I have to. So the school is where I can be more hands-on. So if people have questions about sewing, it's sewing, quilting, crafting, no crochet there because that's on another platform that I filmed some stuff for. But really, like that's what if someone wants a tutorial, they can ask. There are like 8 different courses. I'm focusing on ramping up beginner sewing and beginner quilting courses that will be in there by the end of this month. But it's been so awesome the support I've received from people that were willing to be a part of it, even though it's under construction, and really support me. That I was like, oh yeah, this is the right move because I didn't know till I launched. You don't know,
right?
Like, you just hope, and then I launched and. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I'm really
That's great.
Yeah.
And okay, so Brittany, tell me more. As a business owner, I'm like, hold on, how'd you find this girl? Like, tell me everything.
Yeah. So Brittany started out as my personal trainer, which she still is. She stalked me in the gym like 6 years ago. She made me set up an appointment and I ditched her, and then she like was upset and got in my face. She clearly knew my vibe to where she could do that. And she became family. Like she transformed me. At that point when I found her, I was separated from my spouse, probably the lowest I've ever been. Like my mental health was not good. And she not fixed me, but allowed me to see where I needed to be. And it wasn't all about like aesthetic. It was like feeling good, being strong. No one's ever done that for me. And it's like, there's a financial situation there, but I was just, this is more than that. So it's like, I love her like a sister. And then with the pandemic happening, I had a personal assistant before that was my former best friend. But when she was no longer my best friend, when that relationship dissolved last year, she was no longer going to be my assistant, of course. So I asked Brittany if she was interested, and she said, yeah, because she has a background in marketing.
Awesome.
And so I was like, right on. And so I trust everything that she says. We have that kind of relationship, and she just helps me stay focused on revenue. That's what she does. She controls my emails. She controls my DMs. Like, it's just lovely. She decides what I do and what I don't do. Like even right now, people are going to ask, and she's like, I'm telling everyone you're spending the summer, focus on your family. So just like,
oh man, can you just like copy her 100 times and send her?
Like it's she's made it to where like I'll need her forever as Mr. Domestic, but I've not I wasn't able to experience the benefit of an assistant before, but now to have one that I can trust implicitly, like, wow, the sky's the limit with Mr. Domestic now. It's pretty awesome.
That is awesome. So what has been the best part of having a creative business?
The best part has been being able to show my daughter this. Like, and it's not just the fact that, wow, I built a brand. That's like, what? But it's that I did it with my values, with my conviction, with what I'm passionate about, being myself authentically. Somehow people vibe with that. Never been popular, so this situation in my life is kind of weird. But being able to show that as a model to her, like that's powerful. So that's one part of it. And the other part, and it's weird that neither one of these are about my revenue. The other part is that Mr. Domestic has become an inclusive community. The level of emails and DMs that I get from like queer kids, parents of queer kids, like POC kids, like a lot of kids, how much I've impacted their life. Like that's like, whoa, I'm showing up as the adult that I wish I had in my life when I was a kid.
That's awesome.
And it's those messages are more powerful than making some change.
I mean, I have to think anyone, success can be temporary, it can be short, whatever. But for something to really succeed, I do feel, and maybe I'm wrong, but I hope not, but I feel like it has to be something that means more, that's deeper, it's nothing to do with the money, the followers. It's all about something that's real and deep and I've seen a few messages that people have sent you before about like just what a well, for good and bad, but we're going to talk about the good, people who reach out and just let you know how much you've meant to them in a dark, lonely, alone place. And here you're able to provide hope for them. Like that's huge,
It's crazy. Yeah. Like my business is just the medium that I'm able to do. Just like my taglines, spread joy and positivity through sewing and crafting. Like that's my tagline. And it's like what I'm doing is the joy and positivity and now inclusion. Right.
Yep.
And all the other stuff, that's how I get there. It's just real cool.
So, question on that. So, I feel like because you've made such a strong stance, you get more of a polarized reaction from people. So, like when I say I get some people who are upset with me, I don't think it's to the level that you are because I don't make such a strong stance.
Right.
But even at my level, it gets in my head sometimes when people aren't happy.
Yep.
So what do you do? Because I know I've seen some comments where I'm like, yikes. I mean, how do you get in a headspace? I know you've shared the positive things, but like it really affects a person. We're all humans behind a business. How do you cope with that?
It's hard.
It is.
There are times when it's hard. The hardest time was whenever I wrote the open letter to Missouri Star asking them to like speak out. I didn't, what I was doing, because my intention was so like pure. I was focused on where I was supposed to be focused, which was helping the Black community. And I didn't expect it to be perceived as anything than that. It didn't enter my mind that people would totally misperceive what I was doing and it would become this other thing that it became. That was hard. That was really hard because that's whenever like people who would previously run up and cry because they got to meet me and how much I had changed their lives, to see them give me the level of hate that because they were triggered so fully by what they thought I was saying, like that was overwhelming. And at that same time, that's when my best friend like pieced out. So that was hard. But through that, I learned, wow, okay, people are going to misunderstand what I'm doing. I can't control that. People, if I make a mistake, I'll just own up to it. So I just lived authentically that way, and that's how I did it. I realized those people, they want to misunderstand. That's when the whole concept of willful ignorance started being used. They want to misunderstand what I'm saying. They don't want to understand my lens of what I'm trying to do. I can't focus on them anymore. And at the end of the day, like anytime I hear a comment, I'm like, they're a stranger to me. That's not going to penetrate. So it doesn't bother me anymore. And I just think of the greater good. And a lot of times when I'm doing stuff like speaking out for Black Lives Matter, I'm focused on that lens. I'm not even focused on myself. I honestly thought when I did what I did, when I started, that it was going to burn down the house.
Oh, really?
That's what I thought would happen with Mr. Domestic. I didn't realize that it would have the opposite effect. I thought I was like, I'm going to burn. If all I have in my community are racists that don't want to learn and grow, I'm done. Let's burn it down. But what I realized is that there was a small population of people who just weren't about it. But I succeeded in what I was trying to do because there were a lot of people willing to learn. There were a lot of conservative people willing to learn that thank me all the time. Wow, I'm not trying to change their politics. I just want them to look at the world through different lens and maybe help out and stuff. So it's like, that's what I focus on. I can't focus on the ugly. It's not about me. They're just unhappy. That's how I get through it. It's not about me whenever they attack me. It's about the system that they don't want to break out of.
And I mean, do you have a good support system? Because like I know when I go through something hard, I have a therapist who's been on the show, and two, my spouse who I mean, he is like my therapist too. Plus.
Yeah, my spouse is my best friend. Love them. My therapist, amazing. I have this room. This is why I do all of this, is because this makes my brain okay. And so I just put on some music, some K-pop, and cut some strips and weave something, and I feel good. So I know that I have this to do that. So yeah, I do have a great support system. And then stuff that I can do for self-care too. My therapist has been amazing through all of this.
Bless those therapists. Like, I mean, COVID's been a rough year, but the therapist must be like, ay, ay, ay,
Yeah, like every time I go talk to him, I'm like, how is he sitting here listening to me? Because I know that he's got to be having stuff too.
Right, I know. It takes a special person, so thank you, therapists of the world. So, okay, you didn't do this for a business approach. However, it is a great business thing to think about. I talk a lot about with students and just in general niching down, and everyone gets really uncomfortable with like, well, I don't want to get too specific because then I'll lose these potential customers. So talking about you niching down into like Black Lives Matter, how you didn't do it for business purpose, but I think it shows this so well that like that fear of, you thought you were going to burn the house down, like, oh, but it had the opposite effect. And it's so important, one, to be authentic. If you're going to niche down, don't do it for the wrong reasons. Like do it for who you are, what you believe in, what you love, and just let the chips fall where they may,
Yeah, and that's it. And I lost, not that I lost, I ended some pretty lucrative relationships for me that just on the values, I was like, I can't, if I'm really doing this, I can't be a part of this. But then other revenue streams happened, and like that's just how it happens. But really, like what kept me going is like, why can't I be the Ben and Jerry's of crafting? Why can't I do that and be like strongly like pro humanity, pro people, pro Black lives, pro gay people? Why can't I? That's how I feel. And what got me past that was that that's exactly what a lot of people do. They run their business with their values. And the people telling me to be quiet, they're the ones that are doing it the most. So I'm like, no, that's all I'm doing. I'm leading with my values. I'll talk about them, but I'm not going to argue about them with people. But yeah, so it's like, it's great. And what gave me more confidence to be firmer was that fundraiser that we did where we raised over $160,000 for anti-racist organizations. That blew my mind. I think that's going to be one of the most important things I ever have done for myself and for the community. That showed me that, wow, there are a lot of crafters that think like I do.
I love it. And I just think not being afraid, I mean, it is scary to really stand for something, whatever it might be. But I mean, and Seth Godin talks about it. You want to reach for the smallest audience possible. And it really, as scary as that is, like just lean into that and trust the process. It works out. And I like that.
Well, and for me now that I'm not on the other side, but I'm in it, wow, is my business so much more satisfying to me. It's like, because I found my people and they found me.
What has been the hardest part of having a creative business?
The hardest part for me has been letting go of relationships that I considered family. That's hard when you collaborate and partner with someone. And then just you realize that it doesn't work out with the direction that you're going in. That was hard. That's hard because I'm a sponge. I'm a heavy empath. Like I feel all the things. I put myself in everyone's shoes. But when you're making just business decisions, you have to think with your business brain. And that's hard to do because I'm so loyal. But it's just learning you got to be loyal where it fits, and not everyone should get your loyalty. So that's been the hardest. It is
hard.
It's not been enjoyable.
So, I mean, this is more of just a get your thoughts on this, but I mean, on a smaller scale, I've felt some of that as well. And I wonder, what are your thoughts on keeping business and friendships separate? When things go down poorly for me, I'm like, I need to keep business and friends separate, but I don't know. I just don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think it's necessary, but I feel like there's a missing step when that happens of people really ironing out what that relationship's going to look like. And because you can't remove the personal from it if you choose to do that. But you need to spend a lot of energy making sure that that's going to be a right fit for your business, not just because you want to hang out with them. So that's true. Yeah, that's the thing. And if they're not going to vibe with the way that you do things, or what you stand for, how you want to run your business, then yeah, it's not going to fit. So I don't think it altogether keep it out. But for me, when I enter business with someone, except Brittany's different because she's like my sister now, but the business relationship is always on top. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how I am at because I have a day job too. That I'll be friendly, but you're my coworker first. That's just
Right.
it. A lesson I got from an old manager was I need to protect my family, and that's just how you do it. It's like they're my people,
Mm-hmm.
and you
Yeah,
don't
I
really
like
know
that.
who you're friends with until you're done working with them. Really.
It's true. So, okay, tell us, you have a day job. Do you want to tell us what that is? And do you ever see yourself leaving that to fully immerse into Mr. Domestic?
Yeah, I work in HIV pharmaceuticals. I work for Gilead. It was a dream job of mine because I've always been like really creative, really cerebral. And growing up a gay boy in the 80s, losing a bunch of friends to HIV/AIDS, I always wanted it to work there. And so I'm working my dream job. I love it. I hope that one day, like, I get to be a part of the cure. Like, that would be so rad. So like from a personal connection, like I'm there with that. Um, but I do recognize Mr. Domestic is getting at a level that I can delegate and hire to a degree, but at some point I'll need to make a decision. And I know what the decision will be, but I'm not at that point yet to make
Yep.
that decision.
Not quite ready.
But it's like, at first I was like, I don't ever want to leave, but the mission of Mr. Domestic has become so much bigger than me. And I'm so proud of it that if that can be magnified with me making some other decisions in my life, I'm going to do that. That would be so cool.
And I think, I mean, from where I stand watching this, the people you can reach, the influence you can have is something that I don't know if that's really found elsewhere. You can provide something that it can't be provided elsewhere. And
Well,
that's invaluable.
yep. Yep.
I love that.
Thanks.
So, okay, I can't have you on the show and not address the slogan that you have of spreading joy and positivity through sewing and crafting. So, you are a gay man in the quilting community, and you have a very strong stance on the LGBTQ community and race. So, I mean, we've touched a little bit, but how has this affected your business? How is it received?
Awesomely. By most.
Mm-hmm.
It's, but I've made it very clear because people try to use my slogan against me. Like I get this all the well, this isn't spreading joy, this isn't being positive. And my response to this is like, yes, it is, but not to you, but it's because of you that I have to do this for them to be kind to them. And that's what people in their privilege won't understand.
So tell me more about that. I mean, I feel like I get that, but I feel like there's an opportunity to really dive into that, you know?
Well, I'll say it plainly. This is the best example that will resonate for someone who wants to resonate with this comment. Is that I always lead with kindness in everything that I do. That's just how I am. Is mo. I'm gonna be kind, and sometimes my kindness looks like holding someone's hand, really walking them through. I get asked, like kids ask me all the time, how should I come out to my family? And we have those conversations. I love them. So that's one like obvious way of being kind. But then another way of being kind is me telling a racist that they're a racist, calling them on their privilege, and that letting them know that they're not welcome in my community. To
Mm-hmm.
that racist, I'm not kind at all. But to my community, I'm kind AF because that's what I need to do and say so that they feel safe and protected.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
it's really just who is wanting to understand what I'm saying as to whether they get it. And some just don't want to get it because they want to center everything on them. And if they haven't experienced something in their life, then there's no way that anyone else has experienced, even if they're totally different. So that's how I operate. And it's like I'm never a hypocrite on that because that's just who I am. So it's just interesting when people try to use my words against me, and it's like no.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So do you see any positive changes and shifts from your perspective in regards to accepting LGBTQ and Black people?
And are you talking about like in the crafting quilting community?
Just within your sphere. Like, I mean, and I guess that would be in the crafting quilting community.
Well, yeah. I mean, my whole community, it's a community of people that now know like to correct racism in real time. And then I get to educate them on gender. And then because of that, they're having better conversations with their kids who are the ones having all of those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, all the time. It's it's happening in real time. So it's just cool.
It's a pretty big thing to be living through right now, I feel like,
Yep.
and to figure out how we're each going to handle this and move forward with it.
Yep.
And
Yep. And the fact that there are not a large, but there are a group of people who would prefer it if people like me or Black people or other oppressed people didn't exist. And so that's hard to deal with, but
do you
no,
really see that? That's where I feel like,
I do, yeah.
yeah, wow.
I
Okay.
do.
That's
Yeah.
hard.
And that's part of like letting it in and actually seeing it. Yeah, there's a big part of that. And that's just like if you think of the history, like slavery was just yesterday basically. Integration
Mhm.
happened like our parents were around when that happened. So when that happened, there were a lot of people that didn't want it to happen, that hated. They were programmed to hate. So to think that within, I don't know, 50, 60 years, that mindset's gone. No, it's still there. And the past 4 years allowed it to be free and rampant, and so
Mhm.
much damage and so many people were killed, and like it's just gross. But yeah, absolutely. They tell me in my DMs quite often. It's
Wow.
kind of gross.
I mean, that's heartbreaking. It
Yeah,
really is.
it is.
So okay, shifting back to more of a business for any business creatives out there, do you have any tips that you would give someone who's either thinking of starting or has started a creative business?
Yeah, a couple. One is don't be so narrow on how you perceive that you can make money, because to have a successful business, it's a hustle, and you have to find all of the different ways to make money that add up when you put them all together, and it's like then ta-da, look what we can do. So that's just explore all of the revenue streams. Really really important to do that. And then um, you need to make sure that you value your worth. Like, don't not value your worth because people want to pay Walmart prices for a filet mignon, right? Like, don't do that. And then when you run a business, it's not just about doing what you want to do. I tell this to everyone. It's like you don't get to just do the part of your work that you like doing. Like any job, there's things that like you don't like, even stuff that you hate doing, but you have to do it. So it's like you don't like being on camera. I don't care. You have to be on camera. That's just how it has to be. You don't like social media. I don't care. That's how you grow a business, right? So it's like people talking themselves out of doing stuff because it makes them uncomfortable. It's like, are you going to run a garage sale or are you going to run a business? And if you're going to run a business, you got to do all the things.
Yep.
That's the difference. So it's like, it's hard for people to hear, but it's like, nah, you don't like it? Really? Do you think that I like going over to TikTok and doing live streams multiple times a day? It's okay, but that's what I have to do to grow. And now after 4 months, I have 160,000 people following me over there. So it's like you just have to
Yep.
do what you have to do. That's it. And you make it fun for yourself. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you're still working towards your dream. Right.
Yep.
It's still like you're still like for me, I've created a brand in crafting and rainbows and color. Like it's amazing. So it's like when I'm doing something I don't like, I think of the big picture. I'm like, wow, this is cool. Yeah, I'll do these taxes for this. But like, I don't like to do it.
Right. Okay. So, and I have to ask, your social media, you mentioned TikTok, but like
Yeah.
Instagram, they've just grown like crazy. Is there, I mean, me looking at him like, well, he does reels a lot and I know those are successful. I mean, and also you have a stance, but like, what would you say has helped you grow?
I mean, it's collaborations and knowing my worth in collaborations, right? Um, Whether knowingly or unknowingly, there are a lot of people that will take advantage of makers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and I learned that the hard way, like the first year. Like if I spend a lot of energy putting my own money into making something for someone, and then like let's say they keep it, and then they don't promote me on their social, and they don't tell anyone about it, and I don't get credit. Like, okay, I don't want to work with you again. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
after doing that a couple times, I learned what to make sure that I got and would iron that all out. So if someone would be like, hey, I'd like to collaborate with you. I go look at their following. Am I going to gain something? Is it the first time? Then I'm like, are you going to put me on your main page? I don't want to be tucked away in your stories. Put me on your main page and then I'll work with you. Because that first time that you're on a new page, that's when you get the most traction. So it's been like years of doing that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but the reels is a big part. Honestly, that's why once I understood the TikTok algorithm and how the reels algorithm is very similar, it's like with regular traditional Instagram, when you post something, the Instagram is gonna put that one in priority and push that to people, and the other ones don't get attention. When you do reels, everything is pushed out all the time. It's a different situation. So my original reels are still getting traction and followers because of them, whereas my older posts aren't necessarily. So it's a totally different algorithm. You have to do it. Yeah. But don't put out lame reels. Like
Right.
spend some time doing it. And basically the past like year and a half I've been practicing. Then I went over to TikTok, learned a bunch of like cool ways to make videos, and then I bring them over to reels and they do well.
Yeah. So you've put in
Yeah.
the time. I mean, there really are no shortcuts. People are like, well, what's a hack to this? I'm like, I mean, the hack is to sit and do the work,
You just have to
like,
do the work. And it's like there's things that I've told people, it's like you need to respond to comments. I can't do that anymore. You have to use your lives. You have to do lives. You have to use stories. You need to respond to your direct messages. You need to respond to your comments on your posts within an hour of it being posted, because that's the most important. You need to go to other accounts and like comment on their posts when they have a big following. All of these things help you in the algorithm. And I tell people that, but people don't want to hear that. I didn't buy followers. It wasn't magic. I'm just doing all the right things.
Yeah.
That's
And you
it.
don't want to buy followers. Don't do that. Anyone.
No. I considered that in the very beginning, and I was accused of it too. But
Really?
I realized, I was like, how am I ever going to be able to track like how my revenue potential in this group if
Right.
you're not authentic and real? So I was like, that makes no sense to me. It's not worth it.
And honestly, I'd rather have 5 followers who love what I have and are there for that than 5 million followers who don't care at all
Yeah.
what I have,
I'm okay. I don't need any robots. I'm okay.
Yep, totally. All right, I've got a few rapid fire questions for you.
Yeah.
All right, what is a book you think everyone should read?
The Secret.
You told me about that one and I read it, and I keep telling people, like, I know it's a little woo-woo, which maybe you don't think it is, but I was like, you got to read it. You got to read it.
It's very woo-woo. It's very woo-woo. But like at its core, I know this is rapid fire, but whatever. But at its core, it's just saying, really visualize what you want in life. Don't focus on it, but know what you want. And then go out, live your life, and be a good person. And pay attention to like things when they're presented to you, and then maximize it. That's it. But,
and believing that you can have these things, because so often people are in their head like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm like, whoa, stop right there, So, okay.
You can do anything you want to do. That's what anyone can do, anything they want to do. You just have to put the energy into it. That's it.
Yeah, I love that you recommended that book. So,
yay! I'm glad you read it.
Yeah, I did. All right, what's one food you cannot live without?
Chicken pho.
What the heck is that?
It's Vietnamese chicken noodle soup.
Okay.
It's amazing. It's and my daughter loves it. We've been eating it together since she was like 2. I love it. It gives me comfort, and then I put a bunch of sriracha in it. It's my happy.
All right, I'm gonna have to give that a try. All right, what's one thing most people don't know about you? I don't know, that's tough because we know you.
Most people don't know I have a day job. Most people even still, because I don't talk about it a lot. One, because I like to keep the world separate for the most part. But because I do so much with Mr. Domestic, people can't imagine how I can also have a day job. I'm very good at not compartmentalizing, but using my time, and I'm never dormant. And like even now, I'm working on like little curly cues for a unicorn that I'm making. So it's like I'm always creating and crafting. So that's how I do it. But that's something people don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Do you ever burn out? That was not on the list, but
yes.
Okay.
Yes, and that's another thing that Brittany's helping me with, is making sure that I don't overcommit and say yes to things, and make sure that if I do say yes and it's like a charity thing or like an exposure thing, that it's consistent with my brand and messaging, and not just doing like, it's her. Like really, she was my living angel when it came to my health, and then now it's like she's doing with what she did with my health, with my business, and it's like, wow. Yeah, everyone, Brittany's amazing. Once she gets this down, maybe you can have her, but right now I need her. Okay. Thank you.
You should be hiring more. She should be training people. There we go.
Well, that's her plan when she came in. Her plan was to get everything set up and organized to where she can just pass it over to the next one when they come in. And I'm like, oh my
I'm
God.
next in line. I am next in line.
Um,
Okay, so if you could be invisible or fly, which would you choose and why?
I would want to be invisible.
Tell me more.
Um, I don't know, because I'm nosy and I would like to know what people are really saying. Because I'm not that I don't trust, but I'm learning not to trust. Like I was that person, I trust you. Like you would get
Mhm.
trust even if like we just met. But now it's the opposite. Just to know, because I live very honestly and authentically, and I try to intentionally. Like I try not to lie, all that kind of stuff. It's like, what's the point? That I would
Mhm.
love to know, like to be able to have that superpower when I'm in like a meeting and then go and like watch them to see if like they're really legit. It would just take away a lot of anxiety.
Yes. See, well, anyways, rapid fire. I thought about that though. I wonder if I'd become a head case if I knew everyone's lie, if I'd be like, ooh, I don't know. A topic for another day. All right.
Right.
If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go?
That's hard now because it's like I
Mhm.
can't even imagine traveling at this point. Where would I travel? Back to Hawaii with my kid and my spouse because Helen and I took a trip to Hawaii, just she and I, when she was 4. And that's what my Aura collection was inspired by. That we
Mhm.
always talk about wanting to go back there with Aurelian, with her papa, because that would just
Awesome.
be fun. But really now, like I'd be happy just getting out of my house anywhere. Like,
Get on the street. I don't care.
yeah, I don't care.
So, where in Hawaii did you guys go? Which island?
We went to the Big Island,
Okay.
and we because how we were able to go because I would travel so much for my day job, I had like enough miles to get her and I there, not my spouse. So we went and we stayed in like this resort and just hung out and did all the things there. It was just lovely.
Sounds amazing. All right. So, for our listeners, where can they find you?
I'm everywhere on the interweb. I am Mr. Domestic spelled out, Mister Domestic. If you try MR, you might find a cat. So if you're not looking for that, then make sure to spell it out. MrDomestic.com. That's my website. I am Mr. Domestic on the Instagram, the Facebook, the TikTok, the Pinterest. I have a Facebook group. That's my favorite place on the internet. It's like 13,000 running strong. People very like-minded, truly inclusive, supportive. I have my online sewing school. So the website is sew-u.com. Come join me. It's going to be amazing. I'll have new stuff by the time this comes out. And then I'm like everywhere else. Like because I do tutorials and stuff for a lot of other places. And you can find that there. I have crochet stuff with something I did at TN Marketing. I forgot the name of the site. But yeah, I'm everywhere. I got around.
Okay. You do. I know. You'll pop up here and there. I'm like, dang, he's everywhere. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on the show. This was truly a pleasure. This has been
Oh
awesome.
my God, of course. Thanks for inviting me. I'm honored. I'm
Yes.
honored.
Well,
Thank you.
I hope that you enjoyed meeting Mr. Domestic or hearing more from him if you already knew him. Isn't he just energetic and he knows what he's about and what he's doing? And I absolutely love that he's not afraid to be who he is, to own it, and to create a space that's super intentional. And, not each business owner has to take a stand on different things, regardless of what you believe. But if that is something that's really important to you, what better example do you have than from Mr. Domestic? So thank you so much for being on the show, Matthew. And if this has been an episode that's resonated with you, I'd love for you to leave a review, share what stood out and was helpful for you. And next week, be sure to join the podcast where I will be sharing a business coaching call with Erin Grogan. We dive into her business and she talks about, she feels like she's doing all of the things that people have told her to do to improve her business. And so I really wanted her to come on the podcast so we could take a deep dive into her business and take a look at what's working, what she could try to help grow her business. There are definitely some things on there that any small business owner can benefit from. So be sure to join us next week on the Craft to Career podcast. And until then, have a wonderful week.